Okay, let's get started here with these AI services on AWS. We have everything from advanced text analytics, automated code reviews, chatbots, forecasting, document analysis, you name it, there's a lot of things. What I like to do is I like to start with the Cloud Shell. And what's awesome about the Cloud Shell is that you can try out and prototype ideas. And if you want to look at some of the examples that are fully baked, you can go to Noah Gift, .NET AWS Comprehend, and you can see some of these examples here. I'm going to go ahead and get started here and paste in the AWS Comprehend detection. So to start out with, I'm going to say AWS, and I can say comprehend. And what's nice is if I go through here and I just do a help, it will show me more about what this service can do. And notice that it says these are these are the available subcommands. So it can do batch detect, dominant language, classified document, all these really cool things here. And all I need to do is just put this different subcommand inside. So to get started with, I'm going to go ahead and just paste an entire document inside. And notice when you do a paste, it tells you that it's going to give me a safe paste here. And it says AWS comprehend, detect sentiment. And I have these new line characters that allow me to put each option here on another line. I think this is a good way to build out really complex commands, is to have these new line extensions here. Because it just makes it a lot more readable. So here we go. I say language code is English, and then I say for the text, I love C#. It's going to tell me, whether this is negative, positive, or neutral. Here we go. It says sentiment positive. So very, very straightforward. In fact, and if you want to do AI work, I mean, why even getting into a language? You can just get started and start pasting stuff inside of here. Now, there are a couple things here that are a little bit tricky, that are subtle. And one of them is, how do I get text into this if I want to play out with some more complex, website or some other data source? And that is a problem, and we're going to solve it. And then the other thing is, how much can I pass into here? So if we type in AWS comprehend, one of the things that's nice is that it does do really good tab completion. So I can start to partially type something, it goes through and does this. Now, if I do help here, one of the cool things is it shows me all of the descriptions of the things I can do. So I can, for example, change the text input. I can change the language code, all these things. But one thing to be aware of is that each string that you pass in, at least from this particular tool, must be fewer than 5,000 bytes. So if you are going to pass in a huge quantity of text, you have to be aware of that. So that is, in fact, what we're going to do next. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a tool called links. And this is really way back in the day, something that a lot of people used. And what links does, if I do sudo yum install links, is it gives me the ability to browse websites from a terminal. So this was actually the way many of us used to browse the internet back in the late 1980s and early 1990s. In fact, I definitely have done this in my life. And what's cool is we can also use it to do data science. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a little bit of a snippet here of code that I have, and I'm going to walk you through what it does. All right, let's take a look at what this code does. We use links, and then we put in the word dump, and this will just dump the text out to the standard out of bash. And what I do is I look at this website. So let's go ahead and browse it first. This is Wikipedia. Albert Einstein, one of the geniuses of the last several centuries here, one of the top geniuses, did theoretical physics work, helped create the nuclear power revolution. And one of the things that we can do is pipe this by using links into the less command. And notice here now I can browse and look at things. So even if you don't want to do data science, this is really cool to know that you can browse Wikipedia from the terminal by just using links. And Wikipedia is fairly friendly with the links command line tool. So what we're going to do next here, now that we know we can grab some content, is I want to just pipe out, how many lines are inside of here. Uh-oh, 7,690. Well, what about bytes? How could we figure that out? Well, the word count command does give us the ability to grab it. So if I type in bytes here, notice that it's way over what the AWS comprehend tool will take. It's 432,000. It can only take up 5,000. So what I can do here is I can create a variable because that variable can hold maybe an extraction of exactly 5,000 bytes. And so how would we do this? Well, first up, let's go ahead and build out a command line tool that pulls out 5,000 bytes. And let me walk you through it. So I do that same dump command, but the head bash command, if you pass in -c, it will actually pull out how many bytes you want, and it'll stop right there. So we can actually use this, and notice it goes through and it grabs some text out of here. So that looks pretty good, right? It looks like we're able to get a little bit of the article here and play around with it, at least from a teaching perspective here. So now that I've got this, how would I use this with the previous command? And if we look at the previous command, one of the things that's complex about it is that it takes in a dash dash text, right? So if I go up, back here and I look at the command, notice that this is a little bit complicated because we can't pipe it in. We're going to need to assign something to a variable. Fortunately, pretty straightforward to do this in Bash. All we need to do is go to this command and essentially put the right syntax around it. So put this character here and put this other character here, like these inside quotes here or backticks, and then I can just type in text equals. So these backticks will put the output of this command into this text variable. And now if I just type in echo $ text, we've got this inside of a variable, which is pretty cool. Now, in this case, though, I don't want to just get the word count. I actually want to get the entire text command, and I want the raw text. And so here we go. I just swap that out, go through here, do the head -c, and then if I do the echo, there we go. We've got all the raw text in here, which is, again, pretty cool stuff. And what's awesome about this is that it gives us quite a bit of really awesome stuff here for us to play around with. Okay, so now that I've got this thing here and we're able to play around with it, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a more complex command, which is the AWS comprehend command. So how do we do this? Well, fairly straightforward here is that all I need to do is I need to just do AWS comprehend. And so let's go ahead and grab just the parts we care about, which is this. We need to say AWS comprehend to text sentiment -- language English, and then I just assign the text to this text variable. Let's go ahead and paste it. There we go. And we can see that in general, people that write articles on Einstein feel like they do a pretty good job of doing neutral, but in fact, there's a very positive slant. So let's say around a third of the content is extremely positive for Einstein, where in theory you would expect it to be more neutral. And so, as a historical figure, he's very well liked. So that's kind of an interesting from a data science perspective. But what can we do beyond this, right? Like, are there other things that we could do to make things a little bit more complex? Well, we can. So one of the things that I think is a fun thing to play around with is, what if I go here and I use detect entities, and then I say output as text, though, this time. So this time I want to use our bash capabilities to start to process something. And notice what we find here is that we have Wikipedia, Albert Einstein, German, right? If I just look at the first few characters here, and we could even do more, right? If I want to say, let's say 25 entries, right? You can see that there's even more entries. That these are the key, items or entities that are pulled out from this text. And this again is just using a slightly different AWS comprehend subcommand. And now this is pretty good, but what if I could actually just get this column, right? The one that has the entities, and then find out how many times that entity occurs. And I think this would be a really powerful way to get more information about what's happening in this Wikipedia article, potentially to do more research or to build out something in another language. So, in order to do that, I'm going to go over to a command I've got called AI pipeline, and you can see here that this is a little more complex, and essentially, let me just first paste it in, and it's going to ask the same thing, and notice once I paste this in, I'll explain what it does. So we can go ahead and paste this. First thing is we do the entity extraction. I then pass in the English code. I pass in the text. We've already done this. I tell it to output text. And now here's where we get into the bash pipeline. What I say is I say, grab that column where the entity lives. So that's the first thing we do. Now that I've got the entity, I want to convert everything into a cleaned up version. So we remove spaces, only keep basically the alphabetical characters, lowercase things, and then also get rid of new lines. Once I've got that, that should be pretty close. I then sort it, and the sorting allows me to then do a unique count. So count how many times a entity appears. I then do a sort by the first column. That's what this does, and I reverse sort it. And then I see just the first few items, right? Because if there's a lot of matches, I only want to watch a few of the top entities. So let's go ahead and run this. And what's nice is that it's getting something that I would expect, which is it shows me the most important entities, counts them out. And so you would expect an article about Einstein would have the word Einstein quite a bit. And of course it does. University is also covered quite a bit. German is covered quite a bit. Empire, Albert, Kingdom, Zurich. So these are all things that are potentially interesting to me if I was going to do further data science on it. So you're not limited to using Python, or using C# or using R or some other language to do some very complex data science. If you use the Cloud Shell and use Bash at the same time, you can very, very quickly at least prototype a solution using an AI API.